us to be advocates for students with special needs, Lord. Help us to spread awareness in our communities and in our schools. Take precedence of today's activities, Lord. Amen. Okay, beautiful. So for those of you who have never met me before, I am Mrs. Anika Henry Johnson, and I am the Regional Special Needs Coordinator. I have been in quite a few schools, both in St. and Trelawney, and I have been meeting teachers. So if you have not yet met me in person, I'm looking forward to meeting you one of these days. So we will delve right into the presentation now. I am going to share my screen because I know I have visual learners in this space. Aforementioned, our session is scheduled to end at 11:30. Of course, we might go a bit over the time, but that is the targeted time for ending the session. Please monitor your microphones so that the distractions are kept at minimum. Okay, so here we go. Please listen attentively, and at some point in the discussion, I will crave your participation. Please participate as much as possible. Thank you. All right, so this is the title of the presentation, Spectrum of Success. Unlocking potential in students with autism. So first thing is to understand the autism. Autism, also known as Autism Spectrum Disorder.
Welcome, guys. It's our autism awareness week here. So I'm at a workshop
in how the brain
on
functions
autism. So I'm just sharing it with you guys.
Autism
Welcome
can
to the
manifest
channel,
in
guys.
various ways. Later on in the presentation, you will learn about the three functional levels of autism, right? It is a lifelong condition and it typically appears in early childhood.
Welcome, everybody.
No, it is a spectrum disorder, and that simply means it encompasses a wide range of symptoms and abilities. The same goes when you meet one person with autism, you meet one person with autism. Because no two persons on the spectrum are exactly alike. Back in the days, Asperger's was the term that was used. Now, autism is seen to reflect a broader category.
Welcome in, guys. Comes up the live. If you want to learn about autism,
alone, right? Autism
you can
affects
stick
individuals differently.
and stay.
It's
I'm
characterized
just
by
sharing with you
challenges
guys
in social interaction,
because some of you probably
communication,
have children
restricted and
that suffers
repetitive
from autism.
behaviors. Now, these challenges can manifest in many ways, and that is why it is important for you to understand persons who are autistic and how they function, especially our students.
Welcome, guys. Welcome.
So, statistics in Jamaica. Approximately 700 children are born with autism each year. 1 in 68 children is affected by autism. It It is 4 to 5 times more prevalent in boys than in girls. And if you can think about students in your school who are diagnosed as autistic, you will realize
We're
that
speaking about
oftentimes
autism in
it's more
Jamaica,
common in boys
guys.
than in the girls, right? Now, of the 678 confirmed cases of children born with autism in Jamaica last year, 545 of the 678 are boys, and 133 of them are girls, with most of them having average or above average intellectual functioning. And that is something we will delve into later. So now we are going to focus all our attention on the key characteristics and developmental patterns of individuals with autism. So what can we look out for? The first thing is a social engagement or communication pattern. These students typically display a limited interest in their peers. They prefer to play alone or to self-isolate, right? They have, and remember, autism is a spectrum disorder, so these do not describe all students with autism, but these are the most common features. So we have to get that understood first. Sometimes you have students who have a delayed development in their language, or those of them who previously acquired some amount of language skills, they regress. And it is very common. Parents will tell you that, oh, miss, he was talking and all of a sudden now he's not talking. It's very common. And some autistic students, of course, are nonverbal. So there's a difference between a speech delay and being nonverbal. A lot of them have an unusual tone. They sound very cartoon-like, and the tone is very monotonous. Kind of sounds like a sing-song type of tone. Now, some persons tend to believe that it's the exposure or the overexposure to videos on YouTube that causes this cartoon-like tone. That is not necessarily so for our students with autism. Many of them have difficulty maintaining eye contact, and their facial expressions might be different from that of their neurotypical peers. They have difficulty maintaining conversation sometimes. Yes, when you ask them questions, they might answer you with one word, or some of them in a complete sentence based on their functional level again, but it is very common for them to have difficulty with back and forth conversations. Challenges with sharing, turn taking, participating in group activities. In the younger students, we tend to realize that they have limited responses to their needs. So whenever their name is called, they tend to not look, not act as if they heard anything at all. It's that type of response that is given, right? In more mature students, then that
Morning,
type of
guys. We're
response is
talking about
less,
autism in
right? The
Jamaica.
usage of
If you want to
adults
learn about it,
as a tool rather
you
than
can stick
asking
and
for help,
stay. Good morning.
especially
Like up the live,
nonverbal
please.
students. They'll grab your arm and take you to the fridge, let's say if they want something to drink, that type of thing. Now, a lot of times they don't really process those social situations. So social rules, social expectations, it's dismal to them. Some of these students have advanced skills in memory or pattern recognition, which we refer to as savant abilities. Not all of them have savant abilities, though. Rigid thinking patterns and problem solving approaches. Now, behavior and interest. If you are able to recognize by
Thanks for
behavior
the thumbs up.
how autism might look, then in your classroom setting, you'll be better able to identify these students and support them, though you're not able to diagnose them, right? So
Welcome
typically,
A and I
unusual
Family
body movements are
Adventure.
seen, such as
Morning.
hand
Welcome.
flapping, the rocking, unusual posturing. A lot of them spin, they
Thank you.
twirl,
Welcome.
they walk on tippy toes. They have a strong attachment to routines. And once this routine is broken, might I mention, it might result in tantrum. Many of them have an intense
Good
or
morning. Welcome. Thanks for being
hyperfixation
here.
on certain
We're
objects
talking
or
about
topics.
autism in Jamaica.
And you'll find that this leads to unusual sensory interest. So they might sniff a lot. They might sniff everything around them, right? Or they might have a keen inspection when it comes to looking at things and finding the details, that type of thing. A lot of times they can be seen lining
Thanks
up
for the thumbs
toys
up.
instead of interactively playing with them. They just put them in lines and that's it. They might become upset by minor changes in the environment, and they do sometimes have issues with gross and fine motor skills. Now, before I proceed in the presentation, the next topic of our discussion will be the 3 functional levels of autism. Before going there, however, I'm going to present 2 case profiles to you, and I'm going to see if you have any prior knowledge of the functional levels. Now, if you don't, I'll give you a clue. So it's similar to using tiers in your activity. So you have tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and students are placed in the tiers based on their performance, right? The functional levels of autism, it's somewhat similar to the tiers. So here are the cases. Let me see if anyone among us is able to identify which functional level these children are. Post-registration link, okay, there it is. For those of you who are just joining us, check the chat. Kindly, thank you. All right, here goes the first scenario. Jaden is 8 years of age. He responds minimally to his name or any form of engagement, and he uses few words at a time and has very specific or intense sensory sensitivities. He needs consistent and structured support throughout the day. He requires intensive support, with emphasis on that word intensive, for daily skills.
Welcome, guys. Good morning.
He has significant difficulty with changes to routine, which result in major distress for him, such as screaming and head banging. Is there any of you among us today who's able to accurately identify which functional level Jaden is at? Sasha Donner says level 3. Okay. You sound very confident, Miss Donner, and that response was very quick. All right. So at the end, I will describe the functional levels to you, and then you can give me a more definite answer. So the second case is Emma, who is age 9. So she speaks in full sentences and she uses sentences that are grammatically correct, but she has some issue maintaining back and forth conversations. She prefers to play alone, and she struggles to join group activities without help. So, with help, Emma will join group activities. She has an intense interest in dinosaurs and often steers all conversations towards dinosaurs. With support, she manages in the mainstream classroom setting, but she needs accommodation. She stands up when the routine changes. Example, if her teacher is absent on that particular day and another teacher substitutes, then Emma can be seen standing in the classroom. Which functional level is Emma at? All right, so wait a bit. All it says level 2. Keep the responses coming. I'm not seeing a lot of answers in the chat. Somebody says, Mrs. Brown Tyrrell says the second level. Okay. All right, beautiful. So let us see now. I am going to explain the levels to you, and you will make adjustments to your answer as necessary, if necessary. So here goes. There are 3 functional levels of autism. Here's level 1. All right, so students who are at level 1, they require minimal support. They have difficulty with understanding and following social rules. They may appear uninterested in social interactions, and they have difficulty switching between tasks, staying organized, and planning. That's level 1. Now, students at level 2 on the spectrum, they require substantial support. They may have limited social interactions with high interest in specific topics, and they have difficulty with verbal and non-verbal communication. They might be seen displaying repetitive movements, or the movements might be restricted, but definitely more frequent than the students who are at level 1. Now, level 3 requires substantial, intense support. So these students have severe communication deficits, severe, such as being nonverbal. So our nonverbal autistic students, they fall under level 3. They may prefer to self-isolate all the time, right? The solitary activities. And they can be seen experiencing extreme distress when an activity changes or if they are transitioning. Remember, I said extreme distress. So these are the students now who will bang their heads and who will try to destroy the entire classroom, throw the books, tear the books, push others, that type of distress. Now, based on my explanation of the 3 functional levels of autism, I'm going to go back now to Jaden and Emma. So remember now, Jaden responds minimally to his name or to any form of engagement. He uses few words at a time and has very specific, intense sensory sensitivities. He needs structure throughout the day, consistent structure, and he requires intense support for daily living skills, right? So things such as just buttoning his khaki shirt, he requires intense support for those simple things. He has significant difficulty with changes to routine, which result in behaviors such as head banging. Which level is Jaden at? So Jaden's operational level is, okay, Miss Paul, Jaden is at level 3. Mrs. Brown Garden, Jaden is at level 3. Level 3. I'm not sure if that is Miss or Mr. Core, not seeing that title. Level 3. Beautiful. So you all got it. We're on the ball. All right. So let's go over to Emma now. Very good. So remember now, Emma is speaking using full sentences, and the sentences are grammatically correct, but she has some issue maintaining back and forth type conversations. Of course, she prefers to play alone, and she struggles to join group activities, but remember, with assistance, Emma will join group activities, though she struggles to. She has an intense interest in dinosaurs, and she is able to manage in the mainstream classroom setting with accommodation. However, when her routine changes, she stands in the class, right? Which functional level is Emma operating? Okay, I'm seeing level 2 and I'm seeing level 1. All right, so let me just pick out some key phrases here. Speaks in full sentences, struggles to join group activities without help, so with help she will. Intense interest in dinosaurs, manages mainstream setting, and stands if the routine changes. All right, so the beauty about it, I'm not seeing any level 3. So we can all agree that Emma is not operating at level 3. I'm seeing mostly level 2, and I'm seeing some person saying she is at level 1. Okay, so Emma definitely is functioning at level 1. Yes, she is, right? So she has some amount of difficulty with conversations and joining group activities, but she requires minimal support in the classroom setting. All right, so get your fingers ready, everyone. We are now going to delve right into a myth versus fact game. So all you need to type in the chat is myth or fact based on what I will say. So get your fingers ready. I am ready to read the first one, and I have 5 of them. Every child with autism is nonverbal. Myth or fact? Ooh, the answers are coming in. Okay. Lovely. The participation is going up. I love that. Okay. Myth, myth, myth. Beautiful. You are correct. Number 2. There is no medical detection for autism. And this is my favorite one. There is no medical detection for autism. But Mrs. Brown Timrell, okay, I guess that's the answer for the second one. Okay, this is interesting. So I'm seeing a combination of answers, fact and myth. Let me go again. There is no medical detection for autism. Not sure. Okay, Mrs. Harris, no problem. Facts. Myth. Okay. All right. So this indeed is a fact. There is no medical detection for autism. Unlike others like Down syndrome, where there is a chromosome that is missing, for autism there is no medical detection. Right? Psychologists use a series of tests, which includes IQ tests and so forth, to make their diagnosis, but no medical detection. All right, number 3.
Haviana,
And
hi,
if you were
morning.
listening earlier, you will be able to answer this accurately. Autism affects 1 in 68 children. Autism affects 1 in 68 children. Fact, fact, fact. Okay, beautiful. Okay, so you have got that one correct. Lovely. Number 4. For my TV show lovers, let me see if you'll get this one. In the TV show, The Big Bang Theory, a character with autism is seen. So for those of you who watch The Big Bang Theory, is there a character with autism?
Yes.
Mrs. Brongard says Sheldon.
Yes.
Yes, Miss Sheldon, you are very much correct. Fact, yes, fact. Okay, beautiful. Never watched. Okay, so now that I made mention
So
of
we're
it, you
talking
can
about
probably
autism,
just go on
guys.
YouTube, type in the Big Bang Theory, and see what happens for the first minute going in, because you will be able to detect it, trust me. All right, the last one. People with autism don't feel emotions. People with autism don't feel emotions.
Myth. That's a myth.
Okay, the answers are rolling in and they're all the same, so that means you're all correct. That's definitely a myth.
Of course, they have feelings.
Persons with autism,
And
they do
persons
feel
treat them badly.
emotions. Now, I'm going to go through some very common misconceptions that the public has. The first one is that all autistic children have intellectual disabilities. That is not so. Remember now, autism occurs across the full range of intellectual disabilities, right? Many autistic children have average or above average intelligence, and some areas of cognitive strength may be masked or they might coexist with challenges, but all of them do not have intellectual disabilities. Next, children with autism cannot form attachments or feel any form of emotions. Not true. They do form strong attachments and feel the full range of emotions. However, their facial expression is what most persons use to wrongly say that they don't feel emotion. They do, but their whole facial expression might be a bit different from their neurotypical peers, right? So the different communication styles don't indicate an absence of emotional connection. It's caused by bad parenting. Can rule that one out. It is neurological, right? Autism affects the nervous system. It has nothing to do with parenting. Next one, and this one is probably the most common, and it is the statement. Let me not even say statement. It's the assumption some persons make that students with autism will grow out of it. No. Autism is a lifelong diagnosis. What will happen though, early intervention helps these students to thrive, right? But it doesn't get rid of the diagnosis. It will forever be there until death. But the children will learn how to develop and how to manage their challenges. But the underlying neurological aspect of it remains. All autistic children have savant abilities. That is not true. In the media, it is overrepresented, especially in the Big Bang Theory, for example. There are many autistic persons who are like that, but not all of them have the savant abilities like we see in the Big Bang
Welcome,
Theory,
guys.
right? While some excel in some areas, it is definitely not universal. Each child has their individual strengths and challenges. The next one is that autism can be cured. For those of you who are fans of IG or TikTok, you might see where a lot of persons do detox baths for the students with autism, mental detox bath. And while that might help them, it is not a cure. It is not a cure. Research has been done on it and it is shown to help, but it is not a cure, right? Autism is not a disease, henceforth, it cannot be cured. Autistic students are all boys. We can dismiss that based on even the statistics that were mentioned earlier. Of course, while it is more frequently diagnosed in boys than girls, autism occurs in both genders. And one of the things that we must be mindful of, the girls present differently than the boys, right? So they are oftentimes underdiagnosed. Autistic children don't want friends. That's not true. Let us dismiss it immediately. They do want friends. However, their social motivation varies. And for a lot of us as adults, we don't even like to be around other persons. Let's face it, it's a fact, right? So it's just a difference. It's just a social difference. It doesn't mean that they don't want to coexist. That's not what it means, right? But different social communication styles can make forming relationships more challenging for them, right? This one too is absolutely common that autism is now an epidemic, right? Now, because of increased prevalence, it reflects better awareness. And now, in contemporary society, we have improved diagnosis. Back in the days, of course, autistic persons they have always been around, but were they always being diagnosed? Were the services always accessible? No, right? So now that the diagnostic capacity has been increased, we are going to see more cases. Many adults have always been autistic. They just weren't ever diagnosed. And further on, I'm going to show you a video with a very popular American businessman who is autistic. Right? Now, what I am going to do now is to go right into that video. So you will see who it is when I begin to show the video. Let me ensure that I'm sharing my audio. Okay, beautiful. The minute the video starts, you will be able to identify the person.
When talking about your own personal focus, I found one of the most interesting parts about how you actually sort of start speaking about what you say would today have been diagnosed as being the autism spectrum. And to use your own words, if I were growing up today, I probably would be diagnosed on the autism spectrum. In the time of my childhood, the fact that some people's brains process information differently from others can't widely be understood. When did you realize that your brain, you function differently
So we're
in a
talking
more
about
intense manner?
autism in
Well, I
Jamaica,
knew there was
guys.
something different.
It has become prevalent
I give the
here
example that they
in
asked us
Jamaica,
in
and sometimes you
sixth
have
grade to write
children
a report,
who
and I
are
picked a small
autistic and you don't
United
know
States
how
state called
to
Delaware.
deal with
I ended up turning
these
in a
children, and you
200-page
say these
report. The other
children are
kids
rude.
were turning
So
in
here are some
5 to 10-page
information
reports.
for you
And I was kind
on
of
how to
embarrassed.
deal with
Wow,
your
did I go
child.
nuts over this thing?
You are you'll be
Uh,
frightened to know some of the
teachers were always a
prominent
little
persons
confounded at where I was so
who
capable
are
and also yet so
diagnosed
distracted.
with
I literally had
autism. So
teachers
you
at
need
one
to
stage
take the
say to
time
me,
out
we should
and,
skip you ahead 1 or 2 grades,
listen
or a teacher say, no, we should hold you back
to
so
how
you can
you
be more
can deal with
mature.
your child.
And I certainly, my
If
social
you see
skills,
your child
particularly
display
with people my own
this
age,
kind of behavior,
other than a few nerdy boys like me, were very slow to develop. And so I had, the advantages of kind of that intense focus, but some of the deficits as well.
guys,
And,
knowledge is power. Trust me.
it befuddled my parents and teachers a little bit. And I was very lucky that, going to this private school, I was able to shape that capability into a strength. Was it difficult for you to decide to write about potentially having been on the autism spectrum?
This is serious,
Well,
guys.
I thought it was, maybe helpful to people now who get that diagnosis. Sometimes having a diagnosis is helpful to people because they can learn more about other people. It also, can be pejorative, and I worry, that would hold somebody back. I didn't have that, even though my parents, to deal with that I was causing
Thanks
a
for
bit
the
of
thumbs up,
tension, pushing
guys.
back on them, they sent me
If you
to
are
a
not a
therapist. It was
subscriber,
never
please
that he had
subscribe,
some
like,
word.
and
He was
share.
just, hey,
Thank
you're wasting
you.
your time. Your parents are on
Learn
your
about
side. You're
autism.
confused. And over a period of a year, he actually succeeded in convincing me that I was, picking the wrong battles to try and push back to them. But it was never about a diagnosis. He gave me some IQ tests and told me that my mental
Check
style
out your child.
might be
If you see a
a
child
positive thing. So
behaving
it
a particular
it's a
way,
different world now. Kids are not allowed to go out and hide quite in an open-ended way, or to sneak out and try to find computing time. So I had parents that set good examples, had good values, but gave me free rein and sent me to this really great school.
so there you have it, guys.
Okay, beautiful. So there we have it. Bill Gates himself. And
Bill
we can
Gates, can you
hear based
imagine?
on the video that
Oh
he
my
experienced
God.
some amount of issues.
He was on the
Right? But look
autism
at him
spectrum.
now. He's
Wow.
very successful.
Yeah.
He's the developer for Microsoft. Let us not give up on our students with autism.
True.
Now we will move right into the segment of the presentation that focuses on classroom accommodations. Before we do so, I want someone to raise their hand, or you can unmute your microphone. I'll unmute all of you so you can just speak freely. And you tell me in your own words, what does classroom accommodation mean to you? What does classroom accommodation mean to you? So anyone can go ahead and answer that question. Not in the chat, please. Let's go, let's go. What does classroom accommodation mean to you? Come on, teachers, let's go. Yesterday I had persons on the ball participating the day before. Let's go. accommodation mean to you? And you don't have to use Google. What does it mean to you in your own words? Well, it seems you don't want to get out of this presentation early.
Okay. I think for me, I think it means that we teach our lessons in such a way that we cater to all our students. So if we have someone, let's say, for example, with visual impairment, it therefore means that we would put them at a certain place in our classroom where
preferential seating.
Yes, right. And some persons who are often distracted, like the ADHD persons are stuck. You put them away from the door or the windows so that they don't see things outside and become distracted. So you teach your lesson and you create a classroom where it accommodates everybody.
Beautiful, thank you. I'm not able to refer to you by name, but I'm seeing Clarkstown Primary. Thank you so much. Excellent answer. May I get another answer? Somebody unmuted their microphone. I didn't catch the name. You may go ahead with your answer. Miss Lewis, okay?
Welcoming, guys. We're talking about autism in Jamaica.
Go ahead, Miss Lewis. We're not hearing. I'm not hearing Miss Lewis at all. I'm suspecting she wants to speak, but we are not hearing. Is there anybody else who wants to give an answer? One more answer, then I will move on. One more answer. What does classroom accommodation mean to you? So I got an excellent answer earlier. One more, then we will continue. Not in the chats, please.
For me, it means creating an environment where every student has a fair chance to succeed, no matter their unique challenge or learning needs. To me.
Beautiful. And I like how you added that last part, to me, and that is what I want. I want to hear what it means to you. So you were both correct, right? Classroom modification, accommodation, it refers in essence to whatever you do in the classroom that creates change to support these students, right? So what I will do now is to make mention of some of the things that you can do. Remember, this presentation is very practical. I'm going to make mention of strategies that you can go back and implement in the classroom right away. So one of the things that you must be very keen on when it comes on to students with autism is their sensitivities, right? Mm-hmm. So you should always ensure that you're using your soft voice. I know we have our teacher voice, which can echo across multiple classrooms, but for students with auditory sensitivities, always be cautious. Use soft voices, right? Have them in quiet spaces, reduce the loud noises around them. Use natural or soft light if possible. We know we have some LED bulbs, they're super bright. For students with light sensitivities, it can be a trigger. And we are going to talk about triggers and behaviors later on in the presentation. Avoid strong smells if possible. So if you know the cleaner is coming around to wipe your classroom, but a student has some sort of aversion in the room, you can ask her to use only water. It might not get the job done how you want it to, but remember our students with sensitivities. Create quiet corners in your classroom. Quiet corners. right? You can have two soft cushions in the corner and you can reduce the lighting. So you can probably do a little partition that creates a barrier and provides a little shadow for students to go and self-regulate when needed. Now, you can establish physical boundaries in your classroom. And how can you do this? You can get tape, or the mechanical tape, or that green tape that diplomas use, that type of tape with a color that is easily visible. You can use that to create physical boundary. So you can put a square around your desk, for example. Remember, these students oftentimes have trouble with social interaction and engagement and understanding social expectations. So we are going to help them, right? Now, if the areas are clearly marked, you are able to say to them that, they are too close because you want to teach them that too, so they can be less socially awkward when they go into public spaces. Border the different corners in your classroom, the reading corner, the math corner, so you know if it is time for them to sit and write, for example, or if it's lunchtime and they're attempting to go into that area of the room, it is clearly marked. So if you say it is not time to enter that area, they can clearly see which area you specifically refer to, right? Now, in your classroom, and of course, some of the modifications are not physical, as you are hearing. In your classroom, you want to ensure that you're creating parallel play opportunity. So when it's playtime, instead of having that student self-isolate and play all by themselves, you are going to take another student and put that student right next to the one who is engaging in solitary activities, so that gradually they can transition to playing with them. It won't happen in 1 or 2 days or a week, but it's a gradual process, and this is an excellent way of starting it. Right? Now, visual supports can be used in the classroom space. This is one of the best types of supports for students with autism. Use photograph-based daily schedules that are the child's eye level. So if I should visit each school and do a survey and come into each of your classrooms, I know that your timetable will be on a wall. Without a doubt, maybe 90% or more of you, maybe about 95% of all of you here have your timetables displayed on a wall. So for the photograph-based schedules, it is like that. So if it's devotion time, for instance, let's say that's half an hour, first period of the day, you're going to put maybe a child praying, something that makes it very obvious that it's devotion time on a schedule. Then you might have a child with a book in front of them showing that it's class time now. After that devotion period, you might have a child eating to show that it's lunchtime, that type of thing. So the child with autism now is able to make predictions, know what the focus is currently, and know what to expect next. Now, it is very crucial that you label your classroom areas. And I'm not saying that you are now going to go and label every area and every material in the classroom, because that is not practical, right? But for your corners, you can label your corners. You can label a chair, maybe your chair that the traffic is kind of low, and no student is necessarily sitting on your chair multiple times of the day. So you can label your chair too, label teacher's desk, that sort of thing. And we will speak about the benefits of labeling the classroom in a few minutes. Right? Offer tools to the students. Not telling you to go and deplete your savings in purchasing these sensory tools. But maybe the school, as an initiative, could do a fundraiser, right? And buy some of these tools to support the students with autism, right? Things such as fidget spinners, that is a self-regulatory tool. So instead of a child banging their head on the wall, for instance, or throwing a fit in the classroom, kicking and they can sit with the fidget spinner, after you know it, and just spin while they listen to you. Right? You have soft or squishy balls that can be used too, and you are going to ensure that the students understand what is happening. Because you don't want a student to have a fidget spinner in class and a squishy ball, and next thing you know, the others are taking all sorts of toys because that specific student with autism has a fidget spinner. So you want to ensure that everybody is on board and they all understand that this tool for that specific child is self-regulatory. It's not a toy, right? It's a self-regulatory tool. All right, so I am going to go to sharing my screen now. As I said, I know I have visual learners in this space, and we are now going to speak about age-appropriate structural modification. Structural modification. Okay, so here goes. Beautiful. So the first thing I want you to focus on, teachers, is simplifying the environment for students with autism. Yes, I know that you are told to have a print-rich environment, and indeed that is so because it supports learning. However, for our students with autism, it can cause an overstimulation, right? So keep decorations at minimum. Please mute your microphones. I forgot to mute every time. Please monitor your microphones. Thank you. Going back to the screen now. So you, of course, want to have a print-rich environment. If you have students with certain sensitivities, please be mindful of that and reduce the visual overload. All right, you're going to ensure you're doing that. Another thing that you have to pay attention to is the paint on the bright yellow and the bright green. They don't necessarily work for our students with autism. Sometimes they can be a trigger. So the child might be in the room and might be throwing a tantrum, and you're wondering why. Guess what? It's a paint on the wall. Guess what? It's a bright LED light. Simple things as that we have to consider. All right, so you want to ensure that your routines are consistent. Now, a lot of times in the classroom we have routines, but we might do it on Monday and Tuesday. We kind of slack up a bit, and then Wednesday and Thursday we do it again. We don't do it on Friday. I want you to be consistent with your routine. Students with autism thrive. They thrive in structured environments, right? So if you are going to transition, example, into lunchtime, or if it's time to tidy up, then you can do a tidy up song, or you can do a song that indicates that break time is here. Keep the routines predictable and introduce changes gradually and gently. So if, for instance, you are considering preferential seating, which was mentioned earlier when I asked about classroom accommodations, if you are going to consider giving a student with autism preferential seating, you don't do it suddenly. So if the child is sitting at the center of the class, you don't just ask them to come next to you and that's their seat for the entire rest of the term that they're in your class. No. No, they will throw tantrums. Believe me, they will. What you are going to do is introduce a gradual approach. So you're going to get the child to sit next to you to complete an activity for maybe 3 minutes. Return to their seat for the rest of the day. That's it, for the entire day. For the next day now, you might have them come to your table and complete an activity for 10 minutes this time. Right? For the rest of the day, back to their usual seat.
Hi, sister. Good morning.
Next day, same thing.
How are you?
Increase the period.
Welcome.
Right? That is how it is done until it leads to the permanent seating, which is next to your table. So nothing is done in a sudden manner. Everything should be done gradually. Now you have to do a lot of repetition and reinforcement when it comes on to these students. Allow them extra time for instruction. Remember, they have a neurological difference, right? Their processing speed may vary based on their functional levels. We spoke about that earlier. So you might want to ask a child a question.
Welcome, everybody.
Some extra time, man. You can't give them the same time that their neurotypical peers get to process the answer for a question. Give them extra time. They are able to do it based on their functional level again, because for some of them, the focus has to be on adaptive skills.
Some teachers not pay attention. And that's the problem.
Level 3, for instance, the focus is not primarily academic. While you are going to teach them some academic skills, a lot of them have to be functional.
True.
We have to bear that in mind. Moving on to communication tools and strategies. So explaining the visual support now. We have a system that is known as
Welcoming
PECS,
everybody.
and this is what the acronym means. Picture Exchange Communication System, PECS. Now, if you go on Amazon, and you can encourage the parents to do this too. Remember, a lot of this information is just not for you. Some of it, yes, and you are going to share the information. This is how we combat some of the issues that we are facing. Extend the information to parents, right? So the PECS system is on Amazon. Very reasonable.
Yes,
check
sister.
it out myself. Right? It's basically a system that
Autism.
uses pictures and photographs to
Thank
help
you.
with roots. Right? So in the classroom now, you can use pictures, you can laminate them so that they last, because you don't want them to be touched, and next thing you know, at the end of the day, you have to throw them out. Laminate them. Use the pictures to show when it's snack time, when it's time to go home, when it's time for PE, that sort of thing, so the students are better able to control themselves. With prediction, the students control themselves better, because now they're able to know that, okay, so after we eat, we are going to do PE. And sometimes you can tell them in verbal. It makes the transition easier. There is a board that is called the first then board. So example, first tidy up, then play outside. And it's a first then board. It eliminates the multiple step instructions. It's not a first then after board for a reason. It helps with transitions and the completion of tasks. So have a board. It can be very small. It can be sugar board. It can be a piece of sugar board that you have, and only 2 pictures are on it, and you focus on that. Right? So first, you're going to have the students completing this activity. activity, and you can have one child with a book in their hand to use that one when it's activity time. And you can have one maybe in the quiet area. So maybe after they have completed an activity, you can allow them 5 minutes in a quiet area. Remember, they are different from their neurotypical peers,
Right.
so the treatment should also be different.
True.
Now, for communication, you can use visual cues such as picture cards. Again, we are seeing this a lot. So, have a child who is sitting on a toilet and put the word toilet under it too. Right? Have a hexagonal shaped sign that is red and the word stop is in it. So you know when they need a break, they just come and touch that, especially for our students who are non-verbal. If they're not talking, we have to establish different communication channels for them. Right? Use speech, of course, to support their understanding. So not because they're non-verbal, you're going to be signaling to them all the time. Remember, they're not deaf. They are not deaf. They are hearing. So you don't have to be signaling to them all the time, but you are going to ensure that you use a combination of speech and pictures with the students. Create visual choice boards. So if it is lunchtime, can have a picture of a patty, one with rice, peas and chicken, and maybe one with what else is typically served in school? Cinnamon bun and cheese, maybe. So they can come and point to you to let you know what they need. And of course, the choice boards can be used otherwise, not just when it's lunchtime. Based on how your classroom is structured, you can see how you can use the visual choice boards. Okay, beautiful. So moving on now, and after this we are going to do an activity. After this, we are going to do an activity where we identify the persons on the monitor, popular persons, they are celebrities who have been diagnosed with autism. So that is our next activity. And I have 3 of them to show you. So back to environmental support. So this is a new topic. We're delving into environmental support and teaching approaches. Have clear labeling of the classroom areas and the materials. I spoke about this one briefly earlier, and I will speak about the benefits of doing this on the next slide. Consistent symbolism, we just spoke about that. Reduce the visual clutter. Remember, yes, you want the environment to be print rich, but if you have one student with autism in your classroom, be very mindful when it comes on to that. Allow extra processing time. Use clear and concrete language. Avoid the use of sarcasm. Students with autism oftentimes do not process sarcasm. They do not process idioms. So when you're talking teachers, and I know I've been in the classrooms, we use sarcasm a lot.
Help me,
so
Jesus.
when you're through teaching and it's time to complete the activity, and you say, all right, students, get out your book, complete these 2 activities on the board, and there's a child in the middle of the room. Miss, I should take out my book. And of course, sometimes we say, no, don't take it out. Sit
I
there
am
and
guilty, oh
look. Sit
God.
there and look. Don't take out the book.
Jesus.
But guess what? If you make the mistake and you tell
This is
a student
serious.
with autism to sit there and look, guess who will sit there and look?
True.
Yes, they will sit there and look because that is what you told them to do.
Yes.
So ensure you're always using concrete language. No sarcasm, no idioms.
Wow.
right? Focus on building functional communication before speech production in students who are speech delayed. You have some students with autism now who they're late speakers. They're late speakers, speech is delayed, but it will come. And there are others who are strictly non-verbal. They will never speak. There's a difference though. So if you have, I remember now, a child with a speech delay doesn't necessarily fit on the spectrum because speech delay can exist by itself in isolation. It is not necessarily tied to autism, but you have students with autism who experience speech delay. I hope that part is clear, right? Now, technology integration. A lot of these students have tablets, trust me, they do. Now, you are going to encourage the parents to get these apps, or you can ask them to bring the tablets to school maybe once a while because you don't want that responsibility on you either, or you can take your own computer or tablet to school and use it instead of doing that. There are simple speech generating devices on Play Store, Apple Store. You can go and look for them after the presentation. Many of them are free, right? And these help our students to communicate better. There are age appropriate apps. A lot of them you can download. Some of them you have to pay for them, some of them are free. I encourage using the free ones, of course, right? And some of them are customizable. So, for instance, you can pick what you want and then delete the others that are not necessarily based on your contextual setting. Okay, beautiful. So here now are the benefits of classroom labeling that I mentioned we would be speaking about. So maybe you are questioning the reasoning behind labeling the chair, labeling the whiteboard, and here it is for those of you who are concerned. Labeling and visual symbolism creates predictability. It shows the student where each item belongs. And of course, we know some of them aren't able to read, which is why you are going to ensure when you label the areas that you go through it with the students. Over time, they learn that CHAIR is chair over time. So when they see it, they know that, okay, the book is not supposed to go on the chair. Instead, the book is supposed to go on the shelf, and you label the shelf. Remember, as simple as it sounds, it's helping them with organization. It reduces anxiety about finding and returning materials. It allows them to function more independently because now instead of coming to you and asking you where the Play-Doh should go, the corner is labeled. So they know where the Play-Doh should go, right? Labeling and visual symbolism addresses communication differences. It provides a visual communication pathway that doesn't rely on verbal processing. All they need to do is look on it, see the letters. Of course, we know the symbolism there is representational of a word. So you just want to teach them that and let them be able to do that independently and help themselves. Right? It bridges gaps by connecting those symbols or the words. We know that the letters are referred to as symbols here to concrete objects. So it's building their vocabulary also. Now, the cognitive load of remembering where everything should go, it reduces that. And cognitive load leads to overstimulation. Overstimulation leads to tantrums And we do not want attention to start. As much as we are able to eliminate it, we ought to do so. Not saying you're gonna go work miracles now on a child who normally throws tantrum every day of the week, they will just magically stop, because no, it won't happen that way. They will still do it, but gradually it will be reduced until eliminated, if eliminated, right? It promotes successful transitions. It makes change more predictable, it reduces anxiety, and it provides consistent reference points. And we mentioned the literacy benefits that it has already. Now, it's time for a break. I have been doing a lot of talking, and now it's time for you to participate in an activity again. Now I'm going to unmute. I'm going to ask all of you to unmute. Okay, so when you see that, don't use it now though. When I show the picture, you can unmute your microphone, answer if you know the answer, or you can type it in the chat. So I'm listening and I am looking in the chat. Now here goes the activity. You are going to look on your monitor and identify the person who's on screen. Now, these are famous faces, and they are all autistic. There are 3 of them, and all 3 are autistic. So you can open your microphones and you can participate verbally, or you can use the chat. That's our first person, famous physicist.
Albert Einstein? Really?
Albert Einstein. Beautiful.
So Albert Einstein was autistic
Yes,
too?
So Albert Einstein.
Wow. Knowledge is power.
Is a famous physicist, and he was a late speaker. He talked until he was about 4 years old. First word, right? And he often repeated sentences. Now, what is that condition where persons repeat sentences or repeat words? Who knows what is the special education term for it? Echolalia. Okay, J. Williams. Beautiful. And here we go.
Echolalia.
The next persons. My screen has stopped. Let me stop sharing and go back. We have 2 more persons on screen for you. Right. So for these 2 persons in the chat, you can just write number 2, type the name, write number 3, type the name. Who are they?
Have mercy.
Please monitor your microphones. Remember, although I ask everybody to unmute, use it when necessary. When necessary. So check your microphones, please.
Elon Musk.
So number 2 is at the top left. Number 3, bottom right.
You got to be kidding.
Who are they?
Elon Musk.
All right, wait a bit. All age has identified Elon Musk. Okay, very good. So that's Elon Musk at the top left-hand corner.
Interesting.
Number 2, Elon Musk, yes. And who is that? Number 3, bottom right. Who is that person?
I don't know who that person. I don't know
Who is
who.
that at
I
the
can't
bottom
recognize
right
that
hand
person.
corner? He's a prolific Hollywood actor. He's known for being in the Marvel movie. He's known for memorizing words well, and he acted out a 7-page speech in one go for the movie Amistad. Seven
Wow.
pages in one go from memory. Okay, that person is Anthony Hopkins. Yes, Miss Marlene Jackson and
Interested?
Jadine Bullock, you are both correct.
Interested?
Excellent. So, as you know it, Elon Musk, I didn't say anything about him, very famous for Tesla and the development of Twitter, which is now called X. Right? And they are very successful persons, or were, because not all of them are currently here with us on Earth. Right? Okay, beautiful. Thank you for your participation. Now, the next segment of our presentation will focus on behavior as communication. We know behavior is communication. Everything children do gives us information that we can use to connect with them and to communicate with them. So first we have to understand the functions of behavior. So the whys. Why do children do some of the things that they do? One of the first whys is to escape or to avoid a situation or a person or an environment, right? So for students with autism, they might avoid overwhelming sensory activities or tasks that are difficult. Some of the behaviors, most common one, as we know it, attention-seeking behavior. Some of the behaviors, they are just for access, others are sensory related, and for some it's just communication. When they're lacking other effective means, then you will see certain behaviors being manifested. Now, in the classroom setting, it's important for us to be able to identify triggers, right? So what happened right before a specific behavior is seen? What exactly did the child do? And what happened immediately after that behavior was observed? So we're going to be looking at patterns across multiple observations. And of course, in identifying triggers, you are going to be considerate of ventilation, lighting, noise, crowding, those simple things. Also the time of day or the transitioning activity that is being done or the social demand that is on the student. Now, some common triggers for students with autism are these, very common. The first one, unexpected change to routine or to the physical environment that can cause the children to become triggered. Sensory overload. So the noise, the lights, the textures, smells, some simple things really are triggering our students with autism, and we have to be able to identify them, because in identifying the behaviors, we are able to reduce the impact. So what happens after they are triggered? We are able to now control that somewhat. Another common trigger is a difficulty in understanding social expectation, right? So they might mask sometimes, they might try to act like, all is well, but then they are exhausted from masking, and then they are triggered, and that leads to you seeing certain behaviors in the classroom setting. Some of them, a trigger is physical discomfort or simply having the flu or other illnesses that they cannot communicate to you, a belly ache, right? But if they're unable to communicate it to you, then they will try to use their behavior as a communication tool. Now, for these students, we have to build a support plan. In the Jamaican context, we use what is known as the IIP, the Individualized Intervention Plan. Now, in America, you might hear them referring to it as the IEP, Individualized Education Plan, and that is because they have more practitioners and professionals who are readily accessible to them, such as occupational therapists. We have them in Jamaica, but very few, mostly based in Kingston. They're not as accessible to us in the school setting, so we use an IIP, right? And as we know it, the IIP it's targeted. It's a very tactical instrument. It's used for the development of goals. We have the goals that are time bound, of course. We know the SMART acronym, so the goals have to be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound when we are developing the IIP. I do IIP trainings on a side note, so if schools need support with that, I'm able to do the training with staff. No issues as long as I am available. Now, what I'm going to do is to give you a classroom scenario. Based on the scenario, I will open up a discussion, and I want you to respond to me by unmuting. You can use the chat tool, but I prefer if you unmute and speak directly, so we can all hear you, right? Wait a bit, I will soon give you my email address and contact number and those details later on, I will. All right, so this is the classroom scenario. I will be asking you questions about it.
Hi, Trina.
Questions that you will be able to answer.
Welcome.
Please participate in this session. I pray that. So it is 11:30 a.m.
Thanks for gracing me with your presence.
Grade 4 classroom. Students are working in small groups on a science project about ecosystems. The fluorescent light hung overhead, and landscapers have begun using leaf blowers on the school grounds. Alex has been working with two classmates, Jada and Aiden, on their rainforest ecosystem. As the leaf blowers start outside, Alex first covers his ears and rocks slightly. Miss Borland doesn't notice initially, as she is busy helping another group across the room. The classroom becomes noisier as students discuss their
Welcome,
projects,
Trina's motivation. Welcome.
Next to Alex's group accidentally drops a container of markers that clatter loudly on the floor. Alex suddenly stands up, pushes his chair back forcefully, and begins pacing in a tight circle near his desk. He's now pressing his palms against his ears and making a low humming sound. In his face, distress is shown. His eyes are squinted and his brows are furrowed. Then, his group member Jada reaches out to him and touches his arm and asks him if he is okay. Alex flinches and pulls away, and the humming gets louder. His breathing becomes rapid and shallow. Miss Borland approaches and notices that Alex is now fixated on the fluorescent lights above their table. She tries to speak to him, but he does not respond. And instead, he moves to the reading corner, curls up, faces the wall, and pulls his hoodie over his head and covers his ears tightly. Thank you, Miss Colliard, for that response. All right, Miss Colliard, really appreciate. All right, so here goes teacher. We have to now analyze the classroom scenario. So what are the triggers? We spoke about identification of triggers earlier. What are the triggers? And you are free to unmute your microphone and speak. You may raise your hand first, though, so we don't
Thank
have
you, Trina.
multiple persons talking at
Thank
the
you,
same
my
time,
love.
as well as using the chats. What are the triggers?
The loud noise.
I'm seeing light and noise. Loud. Oh, I didn't unmute. Raise your hands. All right, let me ask all on to unmute. Okay, beautiful. The light, the noise in the classroom, and the sound from the floor outside.
It's a ministry
Noise,
workshop. I'm at a
light.
workshop,
Okay, beautiful.
but I'm sharing it.
Next question.
And the container of markers that fell.
There you go. And the container of markers that clattered loudly on the floor. Yes, beautiful. All right, so here we can identify auditory triggers. So the auditory triggers, of course, we have the leaf blower creating noise outside, and we have the group members now. Remember, they're all working on a project, an ecosystem project. So now they're all talking to each other, and the chatter is becoming louder. And of course, as you rightfully mentioned, the container of markers.
I figure it out. I figured that
The
out.
visual triggers. The fluorescent lights are flickering, right? And we have tactile triggers, of course, because
Yes.
remember now, Jada touched him. Jada touched Alex to ask
Talking
him
about
if
autism in
he
Jamaica.
was okay, and he started humming louder. That was
Very
another trigger
prevalent.
for him. Okay, beautiful. So next question. What was Alex trying to communicate? What was Alex trying to communicate? All right, I've unmuted all again, so you can go ahead and answer, and I'm also checking the chat.
I think Alex was trying to communicate that he was uncomfortable in the situation,
Yes.
and it
Yes.
was progressing, but he couldn't say what. But it was getting worse, and
Yes, he was
wanted
definitely
a quiet. He wanted a quiet, safe environment.
Beautiful, beautiful. Love that. Love that. I think he was trying to say he is overwhelmed and needs help. Yes, Miss Marlene Hall, definitely. He fears the loud noise around him. He was trying to communicate all the sounds were making him uncomfortable and he needs quiet time. He was communicating his discomfort. He was annoyed. The environment was too noisy for him to function. He was overstimulated, discomfort, beautiful. The noise and the light were affecting him severely. Beautiful. Love all of those responses. So Alex's behavior was communicating that he was experiencing painful sensory overload. You notice that he was pressing his palms against his ears, right? So he really needed a reduction in the sensory input. A lot was happening. The leaf blow outside, Jada is touching him, the lights are flickering. A whole lot was happening to Alex in that moment. He needed a quieter, dimmer, safe space and time to self-regulate without being bombarded by the social demands. Because you notice that when Miss Borland was trying to communicate with him, he was not trying to hear what she was saying or to understand, right? He needed time to self-regulate and space from physical touch. Remember, he ran over to the reading room, over to the reading corner, that is. All right, so what type of, next question, what type of behavior do you think Alex was engaging in? Avoidance behavior, attention seeking, you name them, self-preservation. What type of behavior do you think he was engaging in? Self-preservation. Okay, avoidance, I think. Okay. Self-preservation, regulatory, avoidance. Okay, beautiful. Self-preservation. Okay, so it is definitely self-preservation or avoidance behavior. Definitely not attention seeking. Alex was not trying to get anybody's attention. He was trying to escape the overwhelming sensory stimuli. And if you notice, he did not run out of the classroom. He ran to the reading corner, right? So he wasn't necessarily trying to escape the classroom itself, but the overwhelming stimuli. No, he was attempting to self-regulate through movement, so he was pacing, and that's a form of self-regulation for our students with autism. The ones, it's called stimming. You can research stimming, and you will see some of them spin, even the head banging, as excessive as it might seem, it is self-regulatory. Now, as adults, we might grab our earphones and listen to music, or we might go and watch a TV show, we might go to the beach and put our feet in the water. That's self-regulation for us. And for students with autism, these types of behaviors are self-regulatory, right? So he was seeking a quieter space. His focus was not on reducing the input or gaining any attention from his teacher or peers, but just to self-regulate. His movement to the reading room signaled to us that he was seeking relief. He wasn't seeking an audience at all. Now, next question. Yes, Mrs. Brown, Tyrell, a combination of self-preservation and avoidance. Beautiful. What strategy could you use? And teachers, remember, I'm asking you what you would do. So don't focus now on being correct. What would you? Don't focus on being correct. Don't focus on using the special education terms. I wanted to use your own words to answer. How would you help Alex? What strategies would you use? And you don't have to name a strategy. You can just tell me something that you would do in this given situation to help Alex. Let me unmute. Okay. Okay, all unmuted. So I'm looking in the chat and I'm listening too. Reduce audio and speak quietly. Yes, Mrs. Brown, definitely.
I don't know if this is a strategy, but I would try to get the place quiet, even to send a message to the leaf blower outside to turn it off. Get the classroom settled and quiet so that it could calm him down.
Very good, very good. And of course, we have noise cancellation headphones. So, right, we could get, yes, we could ask Alex's parent to get one of that, or maybe the school could invest in one. And at these particular times, Alex could just pull them over his ears and it cancels all the sounds. If I know this condition, I would keep hearing muffs for him to wear noise cancellation headphones, right? Use a song to calm him down and speak softly. But at this particular time, though, Miss Purville, do you think a song would work? Remember, there's the noise from the leaf blower. There's a noise from the classmates. So think about that now. Do you think the addition of a song would help in this particular moment? Not that it wouldn't help at all, but in this particular moment, would it help? Or would it worsen the situation?
It would worsen the situation.
Oh, you were thinking a jingle. Yes, as I said earlier, but remember, Alex is overstimulated now, and a lot of it is auditory. So based on the individual case, we have to make the modification. So in this specific case, the song would not work for Alex. It would just cause him to go deeper into a tantrum.
But one question, Meg.
Yes.
For example, you have some of them who love music, and there are certain type of music that they listen to that calm them. Wouldn't it be okay if the teacher is aware of that this kind of music, probably some instrumental music or something, and they provide maybe a headphone with that music on it to try to get it back?
So that would work for different students. But for Alex, it would only worsen the situation. Remember, he's triggered, right? And he was continuously triggered. So if, for instance, at that point in time where the teacher noticed, remember the teacher was busy, so she did not recognize that he was triggered. If in that moment she was able to recognize and give him that type of support, then it would work. But he is already overstimulated. So it has already reached a level where only the tantrum is going to come next. So it would be too late for that because he's already overstimulated auditorily. Right? Okay, beautiful. I think it would work in the situation, yes. A song at this time would not be ideal. So quiet time, okay, beautiful. Yes, quiet time is perfect, definitely. So you want to now reduce the sensory input, not add to it. You want to reduce it at this particular point in time. So the lights that are flickering ahead, you want to target that, right? So instead of using those lights, teacher knows it's triggering Alex. They have to be fixed, right? So use the natural light instead. I know in a lot of classroom spaces, natural lighting is not an option, but the flickering lights would be fixed in this situation. That's fixable, right? Now, space could be provided for Alex. So he needed a quiet corner. Give him just that. So now instead of just seeing that, oh, he ran to the reading corner as you know, a way to self-regulate, structure a corner for Alex. It doesn't have to be big, right? So now we're gonna throw 2 cushions in the corner, use soft material, and it could be one of those small mats in the corner, So when Alex wants to self-regulate, he is free to go there instead of using the reading corner as self-regulation. Right? And he is in the reading corner rocking, and the tantrum might get worse, and he might start throwing the books, and you don't want that. So create a space for him. Right? Alex could be given visual cards. So in that moment, he realized he was not verbalizing anything to the teacher. So in that moment, he could be given the visual cards to show if he wants to go to the calm space, or if he wants to go outside and do a nature walk, for example. This sometimes helps them, allowing them to go outside of the room and do a nature walk away from where the leaf blowers are. Of course, if it's to allow him to go to another teacher's room that is further away from the noise at that particular point in time, for maybe about 10 minutes or so, then fine. But of course, the noise cancellation headphones work better. Because one snap and that's it, not hearing anything. So they're more effective. Now, how could we modify the environment for Alex? We could definitely seat him away from the windows, because apparently he's been affected by the lights. And if the flickering lights are directed to one corner of the room, though still visible, we could seat him away from them. Right? We could warn Alex. So a lot of times, predictability helps these students to prepare for what will happen next. So if at the beginning of class, if the teacher knew and prior to having her class that the leaf blowers were going to come onto the school compound, then she could warn Alex about this activity that has been planned and let him know that it's going to be noisy, right? And of course, this would reduce the onset of all these behaviors that we have seen. Now, another effective way of dealing with this situation is skill development. And this is very targeted. So help Alex to identify the early signs of his sensory discomfort. So when he begins to rock slightly, you are going to practice co-regulation techniques. Right? So before it gets to the point where he's pressing his palms against his ears, before it gets to that point, and he's slightly rocking, you are going to practice co-regulation with him. Of course, not during that time, the co-regulation techniques would be practiced before, and then when the situation arises now, the application part of it would come into play, right? Okay, so now I am going to be sharing a video with you, and it is about social skill development, of course, for students with autism. So we are going to focus all our attention to the screen and listen attentively. Ensure my sound is shared. Okay, here we go.
Of autism in young children is a lack of social skills. For many of these children, understanding social cues, rules, and norms is often difficult and confusing. A child with autism may take another child's toy without permission, which is clearly negative behavior, but the child may not understand why it is wrong to take things without permission. Social skills are essential for maintaining positive peer relationships and understanding the rules of social interaction.
So we're talking about autism in
today's
Jamaica,
episode,
guys.
we will
It's
explore
very
how autism and social skills
important
are
to know
connected and how
what
to
is
help your child
autism
improve their ability
and
to
how
navigate
it
the social
affects
world
your
easily.
child or children.
Autism impacts the development of social skills in several ways. Not only are speech and communication affected, but other problems also include Number 1, inability to read non-verbal cues such as body language or facial expressions. Number 2, failure to understand the feelings of others. Number 3, difficulty understanding jokes, sarcasm, and teasing, which usually leads to bullying. Number 4, unable to initiate or maintain a conversation. Number 5, echolalia, or the repeating words or phrases over and over again. While speech therapy is a commonly prescribed method to help children improve their social skills, there
Very
are ways for parents
important.
and caregivers to step up and be proactive
Welcome in,
with their child's
guys. Welcome
development
in.
at
Welcome
home.
in, everybody.
Number 1, role play. Role
As you
play
come
allows
in,
children to
thumbs up the
practice what is
live,
expected
like,
of
share,
them
and
in a given
subscribe.
situation.
We're
For
talking
example,
about
if your child is
autism.
about to start school for the first time, you can role play as their teacher and guide your child on the actual event of going to school and performing the expected behaviors in a school environment. Number 2, playing games together. Playing games with your child will provide opportunities for them to practice important social skills. Be it playing board games or hide and seek, your child will learn how to follow rules, taking turns, and acting appropriately when things don't go their way. Number 3, watching videos about related topics. If your child is anxious about unfamiliar situations, have them watch videos about a specific event or situation to help them learn how to behave appropriately in that given moment. Number 4, find a group peer setting. Try to find a program or event where your child can mingle with others in a group setting. This allows your child to practice their social skills in a natural setting and gain real-world experience in how to interact appropriately with their peers. You can bring your child to playgrounds or community events where your child can mingle with peers of the same age group. Alternatively, you can sign your child up for our social classes here in the Autism Recovery Network, which engages your child in a
Okay, beautiful. So the social skills development for autistic students, it can be very simple. And as I said, the presentation is focusing on practical solutions that can be implemented immediately. You don't need to break the bank to implement any of these. So use interest-based activities that motivate the social engagement of students with autism. You can implement a peer buddy system, right? And of course, you are going to select supportive peers. You are going to pair the child with a classmate who is socially skilled because you want them to develop certain attributes. So you're not going to choose a student who, for example, you know is having some behavioral issues to do the peer buddy system because that would not be logical. Use direct instruction for specific social behaviors. So in the same way, a child who is not able to read, you're gonna now focus on, the phonemic awareness, and you're gonna do all of that. If a person can't drive, you're gonna give them the car, maybe carry them on a rural side of the island to teach them how to. We teach persons how to when they don't know. So for a child who is experiencing challenges socially, we are going to teach them specific social behaviors. And as you heard from the video, you can use social stories on YouTube to do that. Not anything that is difficult. Practice eye contact alternatives. We know these students sometimes have great issues with maintaining, with giving or maintaining eye contact. So instead of doing that, you can help them. So when they are conversing, instead of maintaining the eye contact, look near the face of the person who is talking, or give brief glances and then focus your attention probably on a wall, then continue speaking. Those are practical ways we can help them. Right? Practice your greetings, conversations, sharing, and turn taking with them. So Oftentimes they don't like to share anything, right? But over time you can get them to lend a child their sharpener or their eraser, right, with consistency. Use specific and positive feedback when you realize that they have had a successful interaction. Boost them up in front of their classmates, right? And that will motivate them and give them the confidence and help them to overcome the issues that they are facing. Ensure that you structure games with a middle, a beginning, and so if you're gonna do netball, put some structure to it. So they're gonna change first, and then what is next. And remember, the first then board that was mentioned earlier, it can be used right here, depending on the activity that your focus will be on. Train the peers of the students to be supportive and to be inclusive. It is quite likely that if you as the teacher give some amount of cold shoulder to the autistic student, it's quite likely that the classmates will follow suit. Children tend to treat their classmates based on how the teacher treats them. So if every time the child comes to your desk, you tell them to sit, trust me, the others are seeing, and they will treat them the same way. But if they see that you're making accommodations, you're modifying the environment to include them, you're being supportive of them, they will also follow suit, and they will understand that certain privilege will be given to them. So instead of, for example, one child noticing that this specific child has a fidget spinner and has this squishy balls, and the jealousy comes in, and then they start to say, "Miss, how come I can't take my toys to school?" You're going to ensure that you're all standing on common ground, right? Now we are narrowing down the presentation. Remember, we plan to end at 11:30, so we have gone a bit beyond the expected end time, but nevertheless, we will almost be finished as we are wrapping up, so stay with me. Now, making mention of differentiated instruction. This is not new to you, teachers. You know that differentiation can be done with the content. Differentiation can be done in the process, and the differentiation can be done with the product. It is more common in the classroom environment for us to differentiate the product, which is the lesson activity. But please remember that the content and the processes should also be differentiated. Now, on the topic of differentiation, this will lead us into adaptive teaching. So I have 2 videos only on the screen. They are less than 3 minutes. One is about 1 minute and a couple seconds long. The other is about 3 minutes. So I will show you these videos, and then we will do a short discussion afterwards. Ensuring that my audio is shared. See me? Okay, here it is. Beautiful.
As much as possible, children with autism should be educated and have access to the general education curriculum. but because their learning style sometimes is not conducive to the learning style of the typical classroom, I find that if we can use the evidence-based practice that works with all the other children and just tweak it a little bit so it works for children with autism, that makes that more possible, and it makes the teacher be able to incorporate that child into the classroom. So primarily we have a few things that are literature that is specific to children with autism, like anaphoric reference, some graphic organizer work, some grouping kinds of things, and shared storybook reading. But for
Welcome
the
to the
most
live,
part,
guys.
what
We're
we do
talking
is
about
take the evidence-based
autism in
strategies that
Jamaica.
we know
It
of
is
and make them more visual to help the
becoming
child with
prevalent,
autism really
and
understand the
we need to
focus
know how to
of
deal
the
with
evidence-based
our
strategy that we're working
children
on, or
when we
to
see
make
these
the social
signs.
communication part
So I
of
want you
the
to rewatch
comprehension
this
easier
live,
for that child to
and I want you
understand.
to
So a lot of times I
apply
use
any
thought bubbles, for
strategies
instance. So
that you
here's
have
Mr.
learned
Smith.
from
He
this
thinks
live.
that the
If you
penny
see
has
any
had its day and it
evidence
should
in
go
your
away,
child or
right?
your
And here's
children,
Mr. Robert.
so
He
you will know
thinks the
how
penny is
to
very,
deal with
very
it.
important.
All
So I'm
right?
showing these two people who are kind of arguing with each other, and they both have a different thought bubble. Well, then I've made those two different perspectives
Like and
visual
share,
for that
guys.
child with autism, and they can
Like
understand the
and
premise of
share.
what's being asked of them.
And thanks for your usual support.
Okay, beautiful. And we will move right into the second video. Please listen attentively.
Take a look at this beautiful garden. It's full of a wide
Second
variety
video
of
coming
plants.
up, guys.
Some are flourishing, but others are not doing so well. Even if they receive the same amount of sun and water, all plants respond differently depending on their type and where they have been planted. Just like plants in a garden, students in a classroom are
Like,
different
share, and
unique.
subscribe. Thanks for supporting
In
the challenge,
classrooms
the
around the
channel,
world, the
guys.
teacher typically delivers
Really
the same
appreciate
content
that.
to all students at the same time. Few adjustments are made for
Thank you
individual
for the new
differences between
subscription.
students. This is often thought to be the most efficient way to teach a large group of students and is how students have been taught for
Welcome in,
centuries.
guys.
Yet, not
Welcome
all
in,
students
everybody.
respond
Welcome in,
equally
welcome
well to
in.
the same instruction. Some students are able to solve a problem on their own, whereas others may need more guidance. Research has shown that learning is a highly individual process.
Thanks for the
affected by a
support.
range of factors, including prior knowledge, ability, and motivation. It's also dynamic. How a student learns can vary from one day to the next, depending on the person's physical and emotional state. And it also changes over the course of someone's lifetime.
Thank
So
you.
what can teachers do to accommodate the needs of each individual student? One promising approach is adaptive teaching. In adaptive teaching, the teacher's role is to monitor each child's learning and to adjust instruction as necessary. The more competent a student becomes, the less guidance the teacher needs to provide. Over time, students become more responsible for their own learning process. And just as different plants in a garden can help each other grow, students in a heterogeneous classroom can collaborate and learn from one another. Adaptive teaching requires teachers to know their students and assess their needs, abilities, and skills. Usually, teachers evaluate what
Welcome
students
in.
have learned using tests and exams at given intervals. In adaptive teaching, what students know and understand is monitored more continuously throughout the learning process. For example, teachers place greater emphasis on the regular evaluation of students' work. They encourage students to assess themselves and their peers, or they have informal conversations with their students about what they've learned, where they're struggling, and
Very
how they're feeling
important.
in order to obtain a more detailed assessment of
Listen,
students' individual
guys,
needs.
very important.
Teachers then adapt the level of guidance provided for each student. For example, they can adjust the difficulty of tasks and the amount of time given to work on them. A variety of methods have proved effective in this context. Project-based learning, classroom discussion, cooperative learning and demonstrations, as well as using diverse learning materials, are all examples of methods used in adaptive teaching. This sounds great for students, but what about the teacher? Doesn't this approach place an enormous burden on them? Teachers have limited time in the classroom. What's more, few teachers have been trained to teach in an adaptive way. This often makes it difficult to attend to individual students' needs. But investing in adaptive teaching now is an investment in the future, as this kind of teaching encourages students' independence and motivation. When students are more motivated to learn, teaching becomes more rewarding for teachers, and school becomes more fun and effective for everyone. Making adaptive teaching a reality is about rethinking the nature of teaching and learning in schools. This will require both training and support at all levels, including from school administrators. The first step is to introduce the concept of adaptive teaching during teacher training and in professional development. At school, teachers also need to have the time and flexibility to teach more adaptively. Team teaching and setting aside time for teacher collaboration are useful ways of facilitating adaptive teaching. Technological innovations may be useful as well, but only if they are integrated into the overall teaching approach. For example, there are apps that help teachers assess student needs and assign individual tasks and allow students to monitor their own learning. Whether adaptive teaching is truly effective, however, will depend on how it's implemented in the classroom. If you're a teacher, perhaps you have already taught adaptively. If so, we encourage you to share your experiences with your colleagues and peers. You can
Okay, so that marks the end of the second video. Now, is there anyone in this space with a student who has a diagnosis
Guys,
of autism?
thanks for watching. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. I hope this was
All right,
informative. I hope you learned
something
something about autism
a student or students
from
whom they suspect
this
might be on the
presentation.
spectrum.
Bye.
Is there anyone?